Well, the top free agent on most Denver Broncos fans' free agent acquisition list was crossed off in Sharpie and will not even be hitting NFL free agency. But as the proverbial saying goes, when one door closes, another one opens. And I actually think 3 more doors open today across the NFL when it comes to superstar receivers who could come to the Denver Broncos. We're going to break all of them down and more in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben. Helps me and the YouTube algorithm out a ton if you like the Broncos, if you would like and subscribe. So about a month out from the start of the new league year, and already you had countdowns going. Shout out High as Ty on Twitter, who already had the countdown that it was 22 days until we had see Tee Higgins rocking Teddy Bridgewater 2 gloves, he looks like, with this number 5 here. Folks were reading a lot into comments made by different Broncos and things. Accounts followed on Twitter and Instagram and all that. I read a lot into Bo Nix having this little conversation with Tee Higgins, as you see in one of my YouTube thumbnails down here. And a lot of people, like I had a poll up there, who do you want to see us get this year in the offseason? And a ton of people were saying Tee Higgins was the guy that we wanted to pair with Bo Nix. We wanted an explosive player with the ball in his hands, someone who could create separation, someone who was a yard after catch monster, not just a possession receiver like we have in Courtland Sutton, but someone who could do more with the ball like Tee Higgins. And as some predicted, which is not what I predicted whatsoever, I thought he was going to hit the free agency market. Indeed, the Cincinnati Bengals franchise tagged him, so he will not even be hitting NFL free agency. I guess the bad news of this is for us, like the bad news that we had hoped he was going to come here and just take Bo Nix to another stratosphere in his second year, and it was going to be incredible. The good news of it is that I have friends who are, actually I don't have friends. I don't have friends who are fans of other AFC West teams. Actually, they're kind of my friends. But NFL Mike from who covers the Chargers and my friend Michael Darcy both would have like bet their houses that Tee Higgins was going to the Chargers and going to the Chiefs respectively. So I think that's phenomenal news here that that also means that he's going to stay in Cincinnati. That is actually one of the most cash poor towns that there is. Their ownership group is famous for how little cash on hand that they have, how bad the training facility is, and so on and so forth. And their defense was already really bad, and now it's about to be worse because you are looking at that team and all of its money is going to Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Tee Higgins. It is hard to build a good defense, and we know at the end of the day, defense wins championships, and so I think it's good. We are playing Cincinnati again this year. This time we get to play them at home, and while their offense is going to be incredible, I think their already bad defense will get worse because they're not going to have a ton of money to pay. When you are paying the franchise tag, it means you are paying the player who you franchise tag at the top 5 in that position. So you are now putting Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, you're giving him a crazy price tag to play receiver, and it does not help their cap situation. So it's good for us that we play them. I think it makes them worse. It also keeps him away from our other contenders that we got to play twice this year in the Chiefs and the Chargers. But there also was good news on the franchise tag front, because the other good news was that there is another wide receiver who's going to cost a heck of a lot less than Tee Higgins, who actually might fit the Sean Payton system much better, who is not being franchise tagged, and that is Chris Godwin from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're already seeing people respond. This is a national account that announced this news that the Bucs will not be using their franchise tag, and you're seeing Carefully Chaos right away using the meme there of Sean Payton using the Jamal Murray arrow, pointing out, being like, hey, Chris Godwin is a Bronco, and if you look at Chris Godwin's skill set, it really does favor what Sean Payton wants to do so much more. Have another national account here tweeting out they just did a bunch of evaluation of the free agents they're going to be available, and just said any run heavy, screen heavy team needs to take a hard look at Chris Godwin because of his blocking and because of his skill at the screen game. And you can't think of a skill set that fits what Sean Payton wants more than those skills right there. Like, part of the reason little Jordan Humphreys, even though he had a couple fumbles this year, stayed on this team and was on this team over a Tim Patrick, was on this team over a Samaje Perine. Part of the reason he kept on this team over a Josh Reynolds was he was an incredible blocker, and Sean Payton loved that about him. And so to have a player who is great in the screen game and who is just an absolute stud blocking, this fits what Sean Payton wants to do so much. So take a look at him here in his ability to not only go up and get the ball, he's very, very sure-handed. He's also great after the catch. You're going to see him just eat up the Detroit Lions. This was the game they won right before we played them and went to Tampa and just mollywopped them. But look at him in the screen game there. We know Sean Payton wants to do this. And while Marvin Mims is great in these screen situations, he also doesn't fight through the tackle, and he doesn't fight through like a muddied hole like a Godwin would do. And so I think that's a phenomenal skill set to put with Bo Nix, because just watching this one back here, someone like Mims, he's going to have a hard time navigating that. While he has the breakaway speed and is incredible in the screen game, I think Godwin would be a much, much better fit. So let me know in the comments. Are you super bummed that we lost out on Tee Higgins, or are you relieved because now we could have a shot at Godwin, and maybe that's where we put all of our free agent blitzkrieg effort there? Other door that may be opened was that we are now hearing news that if either Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel do not find candidates or do not find a team in the trade market, they will be cut, which means just like the Pittsburgh Steelers were able to do this year with Russell Wilson, were they able to have a starting caliber quarterback that another team is paying, we could be in the type of situation where we can give vet minimums to Deebo Samuel or Cooper Kupp and let their other team pay them. So that, when you're talking about like, hey, could we have Deebo Samuel on a vet minimum or Cooper Kupp on a vet minimum? I think we are all banging down the door for that. We just don't want to give up a bunch of trade assets to get him, and then we don't want to have to pay them their huge trade value. So that interesting thing there. And the last door that might be open as well is that you're hearing a lot of people in New York Jets talk about the fact that they think Garrett Wilson might also be on the trade block. We know already because of so many former front office, like George Payton's nephew is now in the front office with the New York Jets. We know that we scored that sick Franklin Meyer deal where we got him, we got Zach Wilson. So we know that the front office of the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets has a really good relationship right now. So if they were to try to make a trade, the Denver Broncos have to be at the top of their list. And so you're seeing this New York Jets website, that their Sports Illustrated syndicate here, make their prediction that you could have Garrett Wilson coming to Denver. And that could be crazy, crazy exciting. I think he was the number 10 pick in that draft out of Ohio State. Actually, I think my favorite highlight of Garrett Wilson, this might be a bad sign, but this was him in college. And it looks like it's done by AI, just like how high up he went to get that ball. But absolute game changer. Not quite a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, but a really, really high upside. And if you take a look at just how bad the quarterback position has been since he's been in New York, he's been getting throws from Aaron Rodgers, who now was gone, and Zach Wilson. So I think him coming into a situation like the Denver Broncos where he has a established quarterback in Bo Nix, that could be phenomenal. So of those, which of those would make you most excited now that we got Godwin, Deebo, Cooper Kupp, or Garrett Wilson, knowing that Garrett Wilson or Godwin are going to cost a lot? Deebo or Cooper Kupp could be cost controlled because their former team is paying the bulk of their contract. Last thing that interesting that as we're talking about other ways we want to upgrade this team during the offseason, tight end keeps coming up, whether we get a tight end in the draft or something we haven't explored a ton is, are there some free agent tight ends that we could potentially get? And a tight end that Sean Payton actually drafted back in 2020 during one of his last couple of years in New Orleans was this cat, Juwan Johnson, who they were very, very high on in New Orleans, that the bulk of his catches this year, while he only had 50 receptions, which ties him for 76th in the entire NFL, probably jumps up higher with all tight ends. A lot of these were either for touchdowns or first downs, and just seems to be a clutch performer in those big situations, and he's going to be a free agent. And so might the Broncos be able to upgrade a tight end even before we get to the draft, that we have a great tight end? You see he's like pretty fleet of foot, watching him avoid the tackler here. And this is against the Falcons. He went for a couple of those dudes thought he went out of bounds, but he did indeed stay in bounds and ran up the sideline there for a touchdown. See him make like some pretty wild catches for a tight end here. Watch him go out and catch this fingertip catch there. Pretty wild. Bo Nix is going to have much better ball placement than he has there. Here he is warming up with a rugby ball for whatever reason. But I think this could be a big addition. Definitely a pretty freakish athlete here for a tight end. And while he only had 50 catches this year, I also would tell you that Bo Nix is a better quarterback than he has played with since his first couple years when he had Drew Brees. And again, Drew Brees was kind of at the end of his career. So what are your thoughts on that? Broncos country, don't be discouraged that we didn't get Tee Higgins, because guess what? The Chargers and the Chiefs didn't get him. We're going to get better. They're going to get worse, and that's something we can all believe in. Woo! I'm back!